So guys, welcome back to the podcast. So today we've got Salena Mulher. She's going to be talking about her journey here at JD Training. Selena's been working with me online for over a year. She started on the group program and then after doing 16 weeks on the group program, moved across onto the one-to-one online training here at JD Training. So Salena, welcome to the podcast.
Thank you very much.
So what we like to do on this is we like to keep it as authentic as possible. You've obviously been on many calls with me. We've had many of hours talking about everything, putting the world to rights, to fitness, to mindset, and we just want to keep it nice and authentic. So just to get started, do you want to share, like, where was you at when you decided to join? Let's start there, and then we'll kind of work backwards and forwards again.
Okay, so when I joined, it was the summer, and I think I was at the heaviest I'd ever been, apart from obviously being pregnant. And I've been up and down a lot over the years, more up than down. And I'd got to a point where I thought, I want to do something. I've done lots over the years, as most people have. And I got to a point where I was, what can I try? What will work? What's realistic based on my lifestyle and my work and home situation? And someone that I don't know in real life, but I know enough of her to know she's genuine. She's not just someone selling you something on the internet. She'd worked with you and was really authentic and honest about how it'd gone for her. And I quite quickly, it was in the back end of June, beginning of July, and I was going on holiday, and I was like, well, everyone's talking about getting beach ready. It's like, we ain't going to get beach ready, but commit to it now, work through this summer, and then see where you can get for next summer. So I signed up relatively quickly after her notification of what she'd done, her transformation, signed up and thought I'd just throw in and give it a go.
Yeah, and again, the thing that I like to speak about a lot, and this is why we like to share so many transformations, is eventually one transformation or one person or one profile will resonate with you. So who was it that it was?
It was Laura from Wife to Life.
Sibley.
Yep.
Sibley in it, yeah. So obviously I was aware of that, but yeah, so shout out to Laura, get her on commission.
Yep, definitely.
So yeah, and Laura absolutely smashed it.
She did.
And again, someone who probably had a lot of ups and a lot of downs and has been she's always, even when not on the programme, always supported me.
Yeah.
And that's quite rare, actually, with people that she's got quite a big following on social media, and with people that normally they do really well on the programme, but then after that, you kind of don't really hear from them a lot.
Yeah.
But Laura, to be fair, anytime she does a Q&A, anytime people ask her, she always alludes back to JD Training, which is obviously great. And that's how we've essentially grown the brand. It comes from... I'm big on transformations. I was speaking before on some of the other podcasts. I'm not saying business doesn't come natural to me. I'd like to think I'm much better now than I was. But I realised quite early on that I didn't like the idea of business with regards to opportunists. And I think we've spoken about this quite often. And for me, it's always about impact. So the business has really grown off literally just getting... We spoke to Carl before, he's getting one really good transformation and I got 3 clients off that. 3 really good transformations, and literally we just took that same approach online as well. So it's great to hear, obviously, you've come in via someone.
And I think part of what appealed to me from what she described was that it wasn't selling some meal plan, it wasn't selling some, buy these things off me and you'll change it. It was about changing your habits, and I knew enough to know that what I needed to change was bigger than just eating something different for a couple of weeks to lose a bit of weight. Because if you've been up and down all your life, you've done different diets where you've gone up and down and you've eaten certain things, Slimming World or whatever. And I knew that would be a cycle of losing a bit of weight now. But what really appealed to me was the idea of changing your habits, because I knew that a lot of the way that I was eating and living was routine, because my work's routine, my life's routine. And it was about changing your habits and your routine in a way that meant you could sustain it and live differently, as opposed to just get rid of the weight and then go back to the way that you were eating and living beforehand.
Yeah, and actually, it's funny enough, like, even on the podcast, it's not actually something we talk about. And obviously, all of my programs are habit-based. You focus on one habit per week, and then you habit stack, essentially. Yeah. Every single week, you stack a new habit on. And the idea is, over 16 weeks, you'll have done a full audit of your lifestyle. You'll be essentially changing where you think, act, and behave around training, nutrition, and mindset. And probably the reason, and again, we've alluded to this on a lot of conversations, obviously we work closely now, is because it doesn't sell. It doesn't. The transformation sell, and then people go, oh my God, like, how did you get that transformation? Oh, well, I did this thing and it's habit stacking, and well, it must work, so I'm going to sign up. Whereas if I just went online and said, right guys, I'm going to give you a task every week, you're then going to decide what you do with that task, and then we're going to track it all week, and we're going to do that with breakfast, lunch, dinner, hydration, carbs, protein. People will be like, I don't want that. And actually, when I first started up online, I would get a bit of a kickback. People would be like, what do you mean I don't get calories till week 5? What do you mean you don't tell me what to eat? Well, what am I paying you for? And actually over time, we've managed to change enough opinions to the point of we get that many transformations that people essentially go, do you know what, I'm just going to buy into this because it clearly works.
And I think that's part of why I liked the idea of it, was because I didn't want... I'm vegetarian, so I don't... There's not...
Good job, because I wouldn't have had any
Exactly.
meals for you, would I?
But most people, like, you've got to eat these certain things. And
Yeah.
I knew that part of my issue was I'm quite routine. I eat at strange times because of work and that. It's like I can't be doing fancy recipe, cooking, weighing, all of that old jazz. I'm not going to do it. And I remember one of the first sort of conversations in the group chat in the first couple of weeks, it was the week we're focusing on breakfasts. And you were really clear. You were like, well, whatever you're going to eat. It doesn't matter if you like it, eat it. And it was that bit like, well, actually, I can choose. You're not going to tell me what I should eat. And the second thing you said, early doors as well, because again, like I say, it was working out that I tend to eat the same sort of things, and it was changing the things I used to eat for better choices that I want to stick with. You said most people eat the same 5 meals on repeat. And I was like, yeah, actually, I do. And it was the same thing as you go, well, actually, I just need to work out meals that I like on repeat and do that. And that then took me into meal prepping and prepping them up for the week. Yeah. And it just made it easier because when you're looking at your habits, I recognised I would come in from work late at night, put some toast on, eat some biscuits, couldn't be bothered to cook. And this was a way of changing the habits, but things that I want to eat, not fancy meal plans. And, it's definitely not Instagram worthy food what I eat, but it works for me.
Me neither. And again, that goes back to, it was actually James Smith was the first person that kind of went online. And again, I've spoke about on the podcast where I've spoke about the business a little bit more. I never intended to be an online trainer. My thing was actually the opposite. It was all about connection. It was all about in person. It was all about getting to know someone, engaging, and having an impact. So it was actually James Smith that once said that. And I say to people often, all of the time, is when you go out for food, what do you get? If I said to you, you're going out to this Chinese tonight, what do you get? And they go, I'd get fried chicken, I'd get this, and I'd get these chicken balls or whatever. I was like, well, you know what you're going to get. So you know what you're going to have. So actually, saying that I don't know what meals choice and I want these recipes is just an excuse because you don't want to say, actually, I just need to be more consistent because you know everywhere you go what you're going to have. I knew last night when we went out for the Turkish that I was going to get the platter because I know and I know that before I go there. And meals at home are no different. What we have to do is look at them meals and bring some simple rules together and go, have we got enough protein? Have we got enough fibre? Are we not double carbing? Do they fit our calories for the day? And again, going back to what you said, if you're eating later at night and you do tend to find you have most of your calories, are we then zooming out and going, can we get less calories in through the morning? And then we have got more calories. So again, it's just about looking at people's day-to-day habits and adjusting them in a way that aligns with their goals rather than going, well, I eat chicken sausages and I'm fit, so you need to eat chicken sausages.
Yeah, exactly.
Which is just ridiculous.
It's not going to work for me.
It's not going to work for anyone if they act like me because I eat like a toddler, unfortunately. Tomato sauce and that's about it. So that's obviously how you came into the programme, which is fantastic, and is how most people come into the programme, which is great for me and it's great for business. Talk to me then about when did it start? If I said to you, like, when did you realise maybe that you behave a little bit different around nutrition or training or movement, or it was something you're going to have to work on? When did that, like, first hit you?
What, after I started the programme?
No, just in general in life. So
well, it's one of them things, if you go right back, I was always a bigger kid. I didn't like sport at school. I'm busy, I'm active, I work hard, but I'd like to go out for a walk, but that'd be about my lot. Like, I'd have a slow stroll. I've never really been into exercise, activity, nothing like that. And then when my husband died, he was fit. He used to run. He used to play tennis. Like, we used to joke that, he'd get up and he'd have like run half marathon and then bring me a cup of tea in bed when you get back. He was really fit. And my older two kids had seen that example, and he would take them to do tennis and he would do that sort of stuff. And I just didn't. And then after he died, and my youngest was still a toddler, and I was really conscious that she wouldn't experience an example of an adult that was fit and thought sport was good and liked doing that sort of thing. And I knew that I wanted to give her the opportunity to see in that way of living as a way that I do with, good manners, working hard at school, set her a good example. So about a year after he died, I joined, there was a flyer for a Couch to 5K from a local running club where we lived. And it was free, and it was really clear that it was about coming together with a group of people. You didn't have to have run before. There was no speed attached to it because my memory from school was like coming last in cross country and all of that jazz. So I joined up and did that, and I really, really liked it. And I was the slowest by a country mile, but I was doing it with other people. So I didn't feel much of a prat running around the streets. You know, you could wear just trackies and a t-shirt. You didn't have to get special gear. So I stuck with that and got into running with that group. And I ran for a couple of years after that. I would get out a couple of times a week, just doing 5Ks. And I did a couple of half marathons. I was still bigger than I am now, but I was generally hitting my steps, running, loved it. But still my nutrition hadn't changed. Didn't do much other than do a couple of runs a week. And then I broke my ankle twice and couldn't run at all. And then I found I really missed it. And I realised it had done as much for me mentally as it did physically. And because I broke my ankle twice, really quick succession, I broke it, got better. And then within about 4 months, I broke it again. That panicked me a little bit. It's like, actually, I'm a bit anxious about, I'm going to break it. So I took an even longer rest. And then I got to a point where I was like, I know I want to start running again. So where I joined JD in the summer, at the Christmas before, so about 6 months before, I joined a local running club where we'd moved to, because I recognised that I hadn't just got into running to show her. I missed running at that point. Yeah. So I'd realised I got something out of that physical activity. There was nothing much else I liked. I liked being outdoors and walking, and I liked running. So joined that about 6 months before I joined JD. And realised I'm still really slow, but I'm cool with that. I'm at an age where I'm cool with not being the fastest or the fittest. And I realised I wanted to keep that going, but at the same time, my weight had got to a point where it was even harder to keep going. So it probably, like I say, really realised I wanted to do something about it after he died. But it was more to set an example than it was I really fancied getting fit and going to the gym. I did go to the gym once years ago with a mate. But that was more when my older two were little, and we used to go in the evening. We used to like walk on the treadmills and chat for half an hour. Do you know what I mean? It was more like getting out of the house and just spending a bit of time with someone.
That can be how it starts, and it's funny you mentioned that, because that's something that we just spoke about on the last podcast with Lauren, and how Lauren is very different the way she came into JD training. But one of the things that we kind of try to get people to reflect on is, like you've just said, like, I wasn't sporty as a kid. So straight away, early on, you're identifying there that, again, that's not part of who you are, and that's not one of your strengths. And whereas Lauren, who, again, probably part of her identity was she was athletic and she was good at sport as a kid, and that's why her habits have stayed with her all this time. But it's funny how someone who generally wasn't seen as that person as a kid and didn't identify, and I think that's the biggest thing. It's not how the public perceives you, it's how you identify as yourself, and we've gone into a great detail about that before, is how you're identifying. And people like me don't exercise, people like me don't go to the gym, and it's took obviously something like what's happened for you to go, do you know what, I need to set the example, and you never actually started for you, but actually by starting you've then realised everything that it's given you. And that is what kind of I try to get across to people is, you might not have been the athletic person at school, it might not be part of your identity, and it is going to be hard to change your identity. But even if it's like walking, even if it's running, even if it's lifting weights, even if it's, like you say, some of the more HIIT workouts, you will find that you take to something. Fitness is not, and fitness, sport, health and well-being is not for one single person. It's for everybody, in my opinion.
And I think that's why I went from the group to the one-to-one, because I did 16 weeks on the group and I was fine with the steps, because by that point I really loved getting up and walking, and that had become part of what I did. And I recognised that being outdoors and being in the fresh air worked well for me. And I'd got into the good habits with the food, but I was really honest with you, like I hadn't done the workouts. I just was not comfortable with them. I was doing the home program because it's just me and the little one at home, and organising the gym on top of work and everything was too much. And to be honest, I couldn't quite follow. I could follow the things, but I felt like a twat doing them. And I've said that to you many a times. I was like, what am I meant to do here with dumbbells and kettlebells? And I was losing weight without doing it. I would give it a go.
That's the issue.
Yeah. So I was like, and I'd got to that point where I was like, I'd lost a fair bit of weight in the first 16 weeks. And I did put the workout on, and I'd lift something, and I'd follow it, but I felt like a twat the entire time doing it, and would skip it more than anything else. I was religious with my steps. I was good with my food, but I felt like an idiot doing the workouts. It didn't feel like part of my identity. I felt like I was trying to do something that wasn't me. But I wanted to keep going, and I recognised that this will get me so far, and this is about building the habits and the identity, and I need to do more than just walk lots and eat decently. So I was really honest with you about you were doing an offer for the one-to-one, and I said, yeah, I think I'd be interested. And I was really honest with you, and we had that call, and I was like, I've not smashed the workouts. I feel like a twat. And I don't necessarily know where, and I said to you, I don't know what my goal is physically, sport-wise, body-wise, but I knew that the joining the program had triggered me into sort of continuing on. Well, what do I want the future to look like? What would being happy in the future look like? I knew I liked walking. I knew I wanted to do more than that. I knew I liked running, and I was really honest with you, really, and said I'm not doing it properly.
Yeah.
And you said that's fine, it's not a problem. And I liked the fact that you were really straight. You were like, at this stage, you know, it's about moving, it's the habits. So it doesn't matter that you don't know what you're doing with a dumbbell. And then I went on to the one-to-one, and that's when I said to you, I was honest with you about the bits that I felt like a prat about. And it clicked one day, I think I said to you, when it was like the rests, and I just put some music on, because I was just stood there feeling like an idiot. So I just put some music on.
In your own living room?
In my own living room, there's no one else watching
gym.
me. No, God, no. And just realised that actually just dancing between the moves made me feel good, and it felt like I was enjoying moving. And then when I brought that sort of energy into it and thought, you know what, I'm just going to go and have some fun with this, then it changed. And now, sometimes it's music, sometimes it's some box set that I want to watch, but it's time for me to put something on and just spend an hour doing it. And now I really enjoy it. But I knew at the point at which I'd done the first 16 weeks that everyone else was like, oh, I'm going to the gym and I'm lifting this. And I'd see people put in this weight and that weight. And I was thinking, I barely know what I'm doing. And they're all talking technique and weight. And that made a big difference when I was straight with you and said, this is the bit I'm not smashing.
And again, and the mad thing is you're probably sat there watching all these people speak on a group chat, and this is what I say to people all the time, like fitness is very much it's a personal journey. It's about you. What do you want from it? How do you want to look? How do you want to feel? Again, Lauren that was on before, like she's never held any much body fat, but she held more than she wanted, and that's what's important. And for you, you're sitting there going, do you know what, like I don't feel like that kind of person that goes to the gym and you're probably feeling a little bit insecure and you're watching other people smash it, when actually you're the one that was smashing it. Because if you actually look at that intake, you probably lost probably the most weight. And the reason for that is, like I say at the time, is going to the gym is about empowerment. It's about getting stronger. It's about getting fitter. It's about all of these things. It's about emotional regulation. But losing body fat comes down to a calorie deficit. A calorie deficit, and I know it'll trigger so many people when I say this, but is not hard. It is calories in, calories out. It doesn't matter about menstrual cycle. It doesn't matter about menopause. It doesn't matter about testosterone. All of these can have an impact in our rate of loss. All of these can have an impact in the way that we feel, which can then shape our habits. But if you're consistently in a calorie deficit, you will drop body fat. And that's what you was finding, is you was nailing the steps. So your calorie burn for the day was high. You was nailing the nutrition. It was just getting to that stage where, okay, right now it's not important. Your job's to lose body fat. You've lost a lot of body fat, but now it's like, actually, that next stage, what does that look like? And that next stage for you is building muscle. And that is where the workouts do become important. But again, and this is what I say about coaching all the time, is you've got to be honest. You were like, I don't do that. I'm not going to do that. I'm not jumping about. Even more recently. Even more recently with regards to finger, and we've had to adjust things on the one-to-one, and it's like, yeah, well, you can do this and do this, but I don't do that. I don't jump about. And you're very clear on that, but that comes down to communication, doesn't it? And it comes up to building a relationship, communication. So talk to me, how much did you lose in that first 16 weeks?
I can't remember, now. I think it was altogether I've lost 4.5 stone. And I think I lost almost 2 stone in...
Oh, I want to say it was. I thought it was like. I thought it was 28 pounds, 29 pounds in that first 16
something
weeks.
like that. And then I joined the one-to-one, and then it fell off me even more quickly, because then I was getting into the workouts. And also, I think by that point on the one-to-one, I was having honest conversations with you about what was going on and what I was struggling with, because I think generally I'm quite head down, just get on with it and do it by myself, and just keep going, get annoyed with myself if I mess up, and then keep going. But by going on the one-to-one, I would then have to check in with you every day. So I'd have to be honest with you if I was having I shouldn't be swearing, but if I was having a bit of a sort of a fuck it week, I'd be straight with you about it. But the big thing was, we would talk about why, and then I would work out, like you say, because you say calories deficit's the easy bit, calories in, calories out. Yeah, and it is, but it's the emotional bit, and most of us. No, I speak for everyone. I know from me, people that struggle with your weight, what you eat and food is very tied up in your emotions and your history, and it's the connections that you've got and all the rest of it. So when I was stressed, I wouldn't bother to eat. And I'm like, I need to have this. Even now, and even this last week, if I'm pissed off with work, I'm doing something late at night, I will go and have some biscuits. That's like code for
Yeah,
stressed. Still.
Exactly, yeah. And the big thing is once you get to, and this is where the one-to-one was great, and we'll unpack that first call a little bit more. But like, this is where it's great because you do start to pick up on these things. So I know when you're having biscuits at work, or you're picking at things, obviously you go to a lot of places where the food's included, a lot of meetings, stuff like that. I know, bang, right, okay, something's going on here, whether that be stress, time management, emotion, whatever that may be, but something is going on, like you say, it is code for fuck it, pretty much. The difference being, and again, coming from the conversations that we've had and understanding a calorie deficit and understanding that our mood doesn't have to dictate our result. Yes, it can definitely dictate us in the moment, but now I think the biggest take home is you will do that, you'll get home, and then you'll look at the tea that you've prepped, you'll look at the calories and you'll go, do you know what, I'm just going to have Greek yogurt and go to bed. Because you understand calories in, calories out. You understand that you don't have to press the fuck it button. You don't have to go, do you know what, I've had biscuits, so that ruins everything. And you can adjust it on the fly. One bad choice doesn't have to lead to a bad day, which then, again, before I've worked with people, it generally leads to one bad choice leads to a bad day, which leads to a bad week, which leads to I'll start again on Monday and then I'll start on the 1st. Again, I'm having conversations in the background right now of people going, do you know what? Like, I really want to join. People, again, on the one-to-one, I really want to join one-to-one, but I'll join in January. And it's like, well, do you know what? It's probably, if that's your kind of mindset, then you're never going to fix it, because if you can only stay in shape, get in shape and keep to good habits when life's going good, as we well know, that's not a lot of the time. And that's real life for everyone, regardless of what they're going on.
And that was the mentality when I joined in the July, and I knew I was going away for 2 weeks in the summer with my girls. But I knew that what I wanted to do was commit to it and change it. And I think that's why it's good to be honest about it and talk it through, because if you can't work out how to manage it and manage the stress of life, it will be the same as anything else, because you'll hit a big enough bump. I'll go, do you know what? I've had biscuits. I'm done. And then you just spiral. And my whole life has been up and down weight-wise.
Yeah.
And that was, like I said at the beginning, the appeal was changing your habits. And then as you get onto the one-to-one, you realise it's changing your habits. But to change your habits, you need to understand your habits and understand yourself and work through how you, for me, don't beat yourself up when you're having bad days and stuff slipping, but be able to manage it and then go, well, you know what, I did eat those things yesterday, but you know what? I know how I can balance it. I'll go again tomorrow and I'll balance it off, be it that evening or the next day. And that's been the biggest thing for me, feeling like I know how to control not just the calories in, calories out, but recognise how I'm feeling and go, do you know what, I am going to have that bit of cake, and then tonight I'll have this.
And that's, again, I say this to people all the time, that, do you know, none of this is about nutrition. It comes down to you don't feel in control. And I say to people all the time is, if you feel in control, if you've made a conscious decision, I'm going out tonight, I'm going to have 2 light meals here and I'm going to have a bigger meal there, it won't lead to the guilt, it won't lead to the shame, it won't lead to the next day being like, do you know what, I've let myself down, because you've planned for it. Because actually that feeling comes from you being out of control. It doesn't come from the fact that you've had, there's no such thing as a good or a bad food. There's no such thing. So again, it doesn't come from the food choice. It comes from you feeling like you're out of control. You're upset with yourself. There's a lot of guilt and shame linked to that, and then going from there. And I think that is a massive part. And again, from a coaching perspective, like you've just said there, there's nothing worse than, from a coaching perspective, jumping on a call and saying to someone, okay, what's gone on? And they're just in denial. Like you just said, for you to kind of change your habits, you have to understand them. You have to understand where they're coming from. And unfortunately, and this is what I say to everyone, and coming on to the one-to-one, is if you're not willing to explore what's triggering you, if you're not willing to understand that this is probably deeper than I like chocolate, don't bother coming on. And that's true, because I can't help you. Go to someone who's going to give you a meal plan, because I'm not going to be able to help you. My big is getting to the root cause, what drives that behaviour. I actually probably love the behaviour aspect and the psychology of changing habits than I actually do the exercise now. And some trainers are different. Some trainers are obsessed with athletic performance, and if I put this together and time under tension and I build muscle here, how will my physique change? For me, that's not important. For me, it's taking people that feel stuck into the best shape of their life, and they don't need that. They just need to understand that every action they take, essentially, and again, it's like a bad cliche off James Clear, every action you take is a vote for the person you want to become. And if you're making bad actions, that's going to lead to a person you're not happy with, and that's where the friction comes of the person that you want to be and the person that you're behaving like. So take me back to that first call then. So you decide to do that first call, and it's quite big. Again, I don't want you to go into too much detail.
No, it's all right.
But it's probably, and I don't mind admitting it, probably the first call I've ever come off and been impacted myself. So I knew very little about you on the group program. You, like you just said, you were head down.
Yeah.
You didn't really talk about your thoughts and feelings that much.
No.
And then you say, I'm interested in working one-to-one. And to be honest, I didn't take it serious. I thought, just same as anyone, I'll jump on and take these people at face value. And you wasn't someone that I kind of felt I'd connected to at the beginning. You wasn't someone that I thought maybe needed the one-to-one, because again, we'd not spoke about things. And then we jumped on the call and it was apparent straight away. I was like, wow. And I was impacted, and I don't mind admitting that. And it takes a lot. I'm pretty pig-headed, aren't I? Do you know what I mean? I'm pretty pig-headed, your typical alpha male man. So talk me through that call. What triggered you to go, do you know what? I'm going to actually start working through these things. What was it? Something that made you feel comfortable? Was it the program? Was it the right time in your life? Was it work? Was it moving? What was it?
So it was all those things. I'm generally pretty good at always turning up on the Sunday call. Normally, I don't really say anything. Most time I'd have my camera off. But I got a lot from the way that you were really straight talking, because I'm quite straightforward as well.
Yeah. Not
as straight talking at work, but principally the
same.
Well,
I'd say you probably are. You just
I am a bit. I'm better at keeping it in, probably.
Yeah,
and my work colleagues will say that.
Yeah, you're a better politician than I am.
But I recognised that the programme worked for me. I respected the way you approach things, the way you were honest, straight, respectful, supportive, the way that you understood that it was about more than just, having a meal plan and going for it. And I got to that point where I'd lost more weight than I'd lost for a long time. I'd done better than I thought I was going to do. And I was having those sort of internal conversations with myself. It was like, well, where are you going to go with this? Because being really honest, and I was really honest with you on the call, my husband had died a few years before that. That was tricky, obviously, surviving that, 2 teenagers and a toddler. I'd just put my head down and worked because I needed to pay the bills, raise kids. I'd got to a point where the older 2 had just left home. Middle one was going off to uni, and I'd made the big decision to move out from London out to where we live now, out in the countryside, not too far out of London. And I'd done that because I'd spent a few years since he died really trying to work out and build a new life for us. Set a good example for her. And like I've said to you before, the big thing for me was my daughter having a good life, all my kids having a good life, but the little one not being defined by the fact that her dad had died. My older 2 being defined by having to look after me and their little sister. So I'd got so far as to recognise we liked being outside, we liked a bit of a countryside. You're going to make me say it, aren't you?
It is like but I think it's important that you say it, because again, like, you'd got yourself into a position, weren't you, where you'd done the practical element.
Yeah,
hadn't you?
I had. We'd moved. I'd got a new job. We'd moved out to the countryside.
You'd stepped up.
Practically. But what I was really honest with you, I was like, I've moved. Like, I live in the countryside. I can go and walk outside and that bit's fine. But I've still not got a clue where I'm going in life, what I'm doing, and how to be happy. I'd spent so long just surviving, and just working, raising the kids, doing the right thing, keeping everything ticking, keeping a check on my elderly parents as well. I just spent so long just doing, and that's all I did, and I still do, like, all the things I need to do. I was situated, it feels pathetic, but like, I've got to this point where I don't know where I'm going in life. I don't know what makes me happy. I've got a kid who's going through primary school. The older 2 are brilliant, off living life. What am I going to do when this little one's done? Because literally all I do is just go to work, look after the kids. I have no idea what makes me happy. I've got into this. I now found I enjoy the routine, and I enjoy being honest about the fact that I like to eat the same things all the time. That all that I really enjoy is going outside and a bit of fresh air and, like, seeing the trees and the birds. Like, I'm a middle-aged, like, Londoner who's got no further than I feel better when I'm outside. I like getting up and walking, but I don't know what the future brings. I don't know what happiness looks like. I think I'd not been happy since my husband died. Yeah. It was just survival, and I didn't know what happy looked like that wasn't our previous family setup, which was part of why we moved, because I say a lot, it felt like we were just sitting in the ruins of a life that was and that wasn't going to be anymore. So I was really honest with you. I said, I've done this, I've stuck with this, I've enjoyed the routine, but I recognised I got to a point where if I wasn't honest about the workouts, just eating and walking was only get me so far. I wanted to get back into the running again and get better at it and see how far I could go and feel stronger and get my body able to do more. But I had no clue what happiness looked like, because I would just spent so long just surviving and doing. And I still, to an extent, I've got a busy job, I do long hours, only parent to a busy active 11-year-old, and older ones.
Who's here, by the way.
Yeah.
It's not like...
terrorising your dog somewhere.
Again, yeah. And again,
like where I go, she goes. That's
it.
The thing.
Yeah, and that's it. And I think, again, that's important. She came up last night. Obviously, we went for food last night. She's literally sat playing with the dog. Hopefully the dog hasn't eaten her, or she hasn't eaten the dog.
I was going to say, could be either way.
And again, and I think the biggest thing that stuck out, and again, I am going to say it, is you were like, all I know is when I go outside, I like the trees.
Yeah.
And I think the maddest thing about all this, and for me, it's the power of coaching, is it started before me. Because again, I want to touch on it because one, I think it's important. I think it's two, I think it probably did start you off on the journey, even though you probably didn't really believe in it probably at the start. And I think it's important for people watching to realise the power of coaching, because I know the power of coaching because I've been coached. I know what it feels like when you're opening up about the things that trigger you. I know what it feels like when you're being called out on it as well. And I've worked with Paul Moore, I've worked with Ollie Carson, I've worked with Phil Graham, and I know what that feels like. But obviously, you worked with a coach before, didn't you? Like, as part of
it was a work coach, wasn't it? It was we at work. I work for local government, and we were working all through COVID, like in the office, supporting people. And as part of that, like insane hours, 7 days a week, etc., they made us have some coaching, like to support us and to make sure we were being supported through that. And I continued with that coach for a while because was the first, because I think they recognised I was obviously dealing with a lot with COVID. Obviously, set up at home was me, and at that time, one teenager at home, and a like reception age kid. So I had a coach at work. So it was about me and sort of resilience from a work perspective. But obviously, coaching is about you and how you are.
Well, that filters
performing.
in, doesn't it?
Yeah.
How you as a human being, you as your habits, you as your psyche, how you think about things, how you kind of motivate yourself to take action, how you show up on a daily basis, essentially comes from them experiences, and then you take that version into work and essentially work to your strengths and protect your weaknesses, don't you?
Yeah, exactly.
That's what you do. But I think it's important to talk about, because I think that was the start of a journey that's obviously led to where you are now, which is losing a lot of weight, try to understand yourself a little bit better. And it just, again, for me, I am an advocate of coaching. Yeah, it isn't just about fitness. I'm an advocate of coaching. I'm an advocate of therapy if it works for you. We've discussed many times, it doesn't work for me. I like legitimate authority, so I like someone that, if I'm going to be coached, I want someone who's been to the depths of trauma. That's just how I am, rather than someone that hasn't and just has studied it. But coaching is something I'm super passionate about, not only for myself, but that's what I believe we go through with regards, yes, it's through fitness, and we change habits and nutrition, but essentially really at the cusp of it, we allow people to go from feeling stuck to being the best version of themselves, and that's way more than just that. And
it's examining who and how you are and why you are that way. And through coaching, you identify that, be it from, well, why did you have that packet of biscuits? Why didn't you fancy getting up? Why do you insist on going for a long run when you've not had anything to eat? It gives you a way to ask questions of yourself. Yeah. And I think that's what I've started to do with, let's say, with the coach at work. Like, say, when I got to the point, I was like, well, actually, what do you do to relax when I go outside? Like, and that was as far as it got. And it's exactly that. We had the conversation. That's how I ended up moving. And I had a lot of guilt about moving. So I was like, what am I doing? Like, moving from the only home my little one's known, from a job. I've been at that organisation for a long old time. What sort of madness is it to just move to the countryside because you like to be near the trees and outside? But it worked really well for us. But like I say, I'd done it practically. I'd found a new job. I'd moved house. I'd navigated all of that. We were settling in well. I liked my job. She liked her new school. We liked the area. We liked being outdoors. But it's like, again, I've changed the location. I'm more comfortable in the location, and I've navigated leaving our family home and starting somewhere else. But I still don't know who I am, what I enjoy. And I started to see glimpses of that through the programme, getting me up and doing my steps. I would find that I was getting into the habit of, I enjoy this, is a good way to start my day. It was helping me manage busy days and busy stuff. But I hadn't got much beyond that. And I felt at the end of the group programme, I was a bit of a crossroads, because I wasn't really, like I said, I was quite quiet, quite head down.
Yeah, you weren't, yeah.
I just sort of get on and
normally on an intake, you can normally see either from the welcome call or they get involved on the Sunday calls. And like I said, like you said, you was on most of the Sunday calls, and obviously we get up to 50, 60 people on them sometimes. So you wouldn't have been a name that I'm like, she's on, because I can't remember you having your camera on at the beginning.
I didn't used to at the beginning.
Now.
I do now, because it's okay that I feel okay that I'm there prepping my food, and that I'm in the shop, then I'm going putting something in the fridge or whatever. I don't feel, because you get to a point where you're more comfortable with it. I'm more comfortable with you. Obviously, been on the one-to-one. I know more people now. I've got to meet a few people at a couple of events, so I feel more comfortable part of it. But I'm not a really groupy sort of person outside. Anyway.
And again, that's what got me. So obviously, I come onto that one-to-one call from my point of view. you've obviously done what you've done on the group, you're at that crossroads, and I'm unaware of all this really, because it's not something, a lot of people say, I feel like I'm at a crossroads. You kind of hadn't even spoken about that, and you hadn't even alluded to it. You just jumped on this call, and it caught me off guard. So I've come on this call, and I remember having the call and then being like I wasn't ready for the call, to be fair, and I was like, wow. And again, it's very similar because I related a lot. Like for me, and I'm always quite honest about it. My big thing from where I'm from was to make sure that my kids got better opportunities, so I can relate to it a lot. If someone said to me now, what do you do for fun? Well, apart from go to the gym, I actually don't know. And because I was JD trainer, took off, we'd earned a lot of money, we'd changed our life, and I was coming to the same crossroads really, and still haven't figured it out, and hopefully will do, of actually what does it look like when you're doing something for you? How do you become, I knew how to be the father that provided and give a better example and do all these things, but how do you become happy? Like, what does happy even mean? And I've always said, like, I never even aimed for happy, I aimed for content. And when I actually speak to my parents about it, so when I speak to my dad exactly the same. My dad's like, well, happiness was for time for people that had time to sit and think about it. I was too busy providing, giving you opportunities, make sure you could go to uni. So it and then you go back as far as his parents that were like Irish immigrants, and they'd come over, literally no shoes on their feet, was sent over to earn money. So actually there's a long line of people in my family that have just took it as their job to provide, give a better life. And I always say it, progress the bloodline. But actually I've done that, and I've done it early. If I, like, the stars aligned and the business took off, and I was at the same crossroads, and I've dealt with quite a bit of trauma. I've been involved. I've seen suicide. I've been in the prison service, seen suicide, seen self-harm. I've been coroner's court. I've been Crown Court for things. I've seen a lot as a youngster, but it was probably the first time I've gone on. I thought, well, I feel one up to you, and I genuinely, and I've said this to you afterwards, and I've said this, and my partner will vouch for it. I went after the story you told me of, like, what got you to this point. I literally went in, and it's probably the first time, and I don't do it often, where I was grateful for the position I was in. And it wasn't to do with the money, it was just to do with the fact that actually life can change so quickly that I've not valued that. Like, I've not valued it at all. I've not give it a second thought. Like, I've been wrapped up, changing, doing all, again, doing the practical stuff, earning the money, getting the bigger house, getting the office, done all the practical stuff that essentially a man should do. But I'd massively neglected my personal happiness. I'd probably massively neglected my partner. I'm fun dad, don't get me wrong, and I show up and the kids are in my bed and all that, but Sam had took the stress on everything. That, like, I've not been shopping, I've not done anything for myself apart from work. And then we have that conversation. I was like, oh my God, like, I remember going in and telling Sam I loved her, like, and like that doesn't happen. I'm not that kind. Everyone knows on the Sunday call, I'm not that kind of guy. Like, I'll provide for her, I'll set the example, I'll step up for my kids, I'll protect her. If we go out somewhere, I might get in a physical altercation for her, but I don't rub her feet and tell her I love her. Do you know? I'm not that guy. And for the first time ever, it took me back, but it was relatable because, like you said, you recognised at that point that you needed to change because you needed to set the example, and that is where I knew from that first conversation. And obviously your results will be up with this anyway, that your results will be world class, because what I realised and questioned you on quite early was, okay, you've done all the practical, but do you want your daughter to grow up thinking it's about doing the practical things for your kid, or do you want her to grow up thinking it's about doing the practical things for your kid, but actually about how you're happy as well? And that's where the one-to-one kind of started.
Yeah, and it makes a huge difference, because exploring that, like I say, this morning we've been up, we stayed last night, and it makes me happy and her happy to go for a walk on the beach. So we got up this morning, she said we're having breakfast early, we had breakfast early, we were on the beach by 8:30 picking up shells, and both of us are having a nice time. And I'm not just doing it because she wants to, she's not just doing it because I want to.
Yeah.
We've worked out the things that we enjoy, and it's okay, like I say, it's getting to know yourself. It's okay that's what happiness looks like. I've still got to go to work, I've still got to look after my parents, look after the little one and everything, but I can plan life. And it's okay that those are the things that makes happy. But at the very beginning, like I say, I had no clue, and it was just the grind of work responsibility. And over the course of the last year, particularly, you know, I've worked out more about what I enjoy, and I've been okay about it as well. Being okay about, no, it's actually, this is what I like, what I don't like.
Well, again, and I think that's why we desperately wanted you on, is it's fair to say you have your quirks, don't you?
I do have my quirks.
And you like a routine. And again, the reason I am exactly the same, like I have certain things that I do and I do at certain times, and it might sound really odd, and I spoke about it. And again, the reason I try to be as authentic as possible, because I relate to someone that wants to work with me. Like, I've got little things about the shower, and I know it sounds ridiculous, but I like to get showered in a certain way. I like to use a hard towel. I have to wash my hair, condition it, use shower gel, and then face wash, and I do it in that order, and I use the same, and I'm proper anal about it. And if it doesn't happen, it wrecks me, like completely wrecks me. And again, I worked really hard, and again went to therapy when I was going to become a parent. Again, I won't say forced to go, I was made to go due to incidents in the prison service, and I was really good at the professional stuff. I could cut off my emotions with things that we dealt with in the prison, and I seen it as work, and it didn't affect me like it did impact others. But what I realised quite quickly was, actually, when coming and talking about things, I've got a lot of quirks, mannerisms that are not normal. And it wasn't until I went to coaching with Paul Mort, and he was like, what are you trying to change them for? Like, I remember Paul Mort, he's not as politically correct as me, but he was like, you've got fucking every ism under the sun you have, you just haven't been diagnosed. But he said, what you need to realise is you leverage your strengths and you protect your weaknesses. So I kind of then become like unapologetic about who I was. So like everyone knows, like locally, if me and Sam go to something social, we take 2 cars, because I'm not going to sit there and talk about the weather. If we're going to sit there and talk about mindset, we're going to talk about trauma, we're going to talk about behaviour, I'll sit there all day. Yeah, Dan was doing the podcast, we did it the other day. He came here and we meant to talk about the podcast, we just chatted shit for 3 hours about deep stuff. But if I'm talking about the weather or the football, I'm out, bounce, see you later, I can't do it. And I used to feel bad, I used to feel guilty on my partner, and eventually, working with Paul, it was like I became unapologetically myself. And that's what we've had to work on, isn't it?
Yeah.
Like going, what makes you happy? Like, why do you do certain things? How else can we leverage these things that you don't have, they are a strength. So again, going back to the beginning where you was like, okay, so let's say you weren't good at the exercise and you might feel inferior, but what you were really good at was building habits around steps, nutrition, because you are a creature of habit. So that's why you got the results. So again, rather than looking and going, focus on your weakness, we focused on the strength and you lost weight, and then eventually we can go, right, what does the next bit look like? But if you never get there, you just think that you identify as someone that can't do it.
And it's the habits thing, because let's say it's the first time talking about the quirks, recognising that I can't sit down, I can't relax. Like I don't sit down of an evening, and I felt like an idiot. Like you're doing all this work and all this hard, and then you just, your kids go to bed, and then you're like, you just felt pathetic. Was actually, it's okay that you can't sit down. It's okay that you'd rather go and scrub this out and get packed for the next day, and going, actually, it's okay that you're a bit different. And recognising that all the things that make you good at what you do at work, that make you able to keep going and sort a lot of stuff out, how do I turn that into me? So as you know, now I do my workouts, I have a routine on a Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, because it's like clockwork. She goes to bed, I do the kitchen, I do this, I do the lunches, I do my routine, I do my workout, I go shower, I go to bed, and that's okay. And that for me is good. Happy is I don't sit down, I build the whole routine, get ready for the day, and then go to bed and then go again. I'm better in routine than I am out of routine on weekends. And when things are not like under my control and moving at the pace I want them to move at, that's when I start to have problems.
And again, it's like you just said, it's leveraging them strengths and realising that, do you know what? And again, I don't think you'll ever get to the bottom of it. I don't know if it's the way that you are or it's the way that you had to be. And I think we probably will never get to the bottom of that, and we don't need to. But had you not had these traits, had you not been so good at being rigid and being disciplined, you wouldn't have got through that period. So actually, these people that kind of hold it against themselves, it's like that is your superpower. The reason JD training is like it is there's partly that all the stars align, Gemma, Laura, lots of people that had big followings, like everything aligned, COVID, online, apps, everything just aligned perfectly. But the reason it's like it is because my tendencies are obsessive. Like we've been on calls till midnight on a regular basis. And if I'm talking about something I want to talk about and I'm changing lives, I can do that. And it's okay to do that. Like people will be like again, going back to the one-to-one, my one-to-one coaching is one-to-one. The expectations are you voice note every day, you weigh in every day, you do progress pictures every week, you do a Zoom call every week, and we talk about what's actually bothering you. And if you don't want to talk about it and you want to flirt around the edges and you want to talk about the reason you didn't have double carbs and you don't want to go into any depth, stay on the group program. If you don't want to check in every day and make the most of coaching, stay on the group program, because actually I don't enjoy the one-to-one if it's not deep and to the point, and you make a change, because that's what it's about for me. And I think the biggest thing as well is when things aren't going great, I think the thing that's always helped you is you have kind of perspective. And I think that comes from, again, and again, we don't want to go into too much detail unless you want to, but
fine.
the biggest take home for me was that first call I realised you'd had your fair share of trauma. What I never thought of, and these guys probably don't either because we're very northern, is what that actually looked like. So I remember we were talking about mental strength, and we were saying something, and you said, yeah, well, I remember taking my husband to the hospital, and I was like, yeah, that would be probably really traumatic. And you're like, I had to go at certain times because of the tube. And it blew my mind, because at that point, and probably everyone up here, I had never thought about having to get on a train to go to the hospital. But obviously that is something that happens down south, isn't it? And like, as much as London's not separate, it is a separate, to us it's a separate place. Like, I had never thought of like actually being really unwell and still having to get a tube.
Yeah, and like I said to you, his hospital was a brilliant hospital, really lucky. It was, and I said to you before, part of this is always focused on what we've got, not what we haven't got. And we were lucky that he was under a brilliant hospital. But that meant going up to central London to get him seen, which used to mean driving to the train station. I felt sorry, you couldn't access the train station from one side, and he was quite physically impacted by his cancer. So we'd have to pull up, get him on the train, get the wheelchair on the train, get off at the other end, strap the baby to me.
It's just...
get into the hospital.
Like, honestly, if you didn't laugh, you'd cry. And I remember you telling me, and obviously I've got young kids, and I was just blown away. And that's what I always allude to with you is, and I always, like, people always say, like, do you have to talk about... Well, yeah, you do have to talk about things like that, because when someone's been through that, today I ate biscuits, fuck me. Like, it's not going to make a difference, is it? Like, you've got to have a bit of perspective in things, and if someone can do that, they can do anything. You just have to understand what their values are and get them to value the thing that they're trying to do.
And I think that was been it, because like I say, I know I can do a lot, and like, give me a work situation, give me family situation, give me stuff like that. I'll just get stuff done. But that's like a sort of what you do, survival, how you live bit. Going, well, what does it look like to sit and relax? I think sitting and relaxing just isn't something I know how to do. And then I'd feel stupid that I couldn't do it, annoyed with myself, like, why, how are you that pathetic that you can't do it? And the bit that I did say to you as well at the beginning is, I know my husband would give anything to be here to watch that kid grow up. He'd give anything. He fought hard, he would have done what he could. For me to then be this pathetic arse that just goes to work and like raises a kid but doesn't enjoy the life that she's lucky enough to have or make the most of it, what's that say about me? And I knew that that's the thing I needed to work out, even though I genuinely couldn't work out what that looks like. And that's why now I'm unapologetic that actually, do you know what? It is a walk on the beach, and she's got a pocket full of shells. We've got a house full of shells and stones, but that's what makes us happy, and that's okay. But yeah, the stuff that we went through in the year that he was poorly and when he died, you can't come through that and not be changed. And I was really focused on the fact, and I've talked about before, after he died, that was survival. The first couple of years was just get up every day and wait for it to be over, and just get stuff done, get to work, keep a job, pay the bills, get the kids. And I was really focused that I wanted the older two to not think that it broke me, therefore they couldn't go off, because they were teenagers, they had to go off and live their life. Crazy. But I got really, really good at just keeping going, keeping stuff going. And I think I just thought everyone did that. Like, wouldn't anyone do that if you're in a situation? But like you say, it's only with perspective and time that you realise it's not the same for everybody. But I didn't want like the legacy of that to be me being broken, the kids being broken, being less than, and a smaller life, because, you know, he wouldn't want that. And it's not how you make what happened to him have a greater value and be a positive force for her and for me going forwards. But yeah, I remember that conversation. I was like, yeah, and then we went up to hospital, and then I think I was telling you where they weren't going to let him come home like on a Friday, and anyone who's been in hospital, if you don't get out on a Friday, you're screwed till Monday. And he wanted out, and they wouldn't let me out until he'd had some equipment that he needed. They couldn't deliver. I was like, it's fine, go and get me some and I'll take it home. And they went and got the equipment that he needed. It was a big chunky bit of adaptation stuff. Got the train, took it home, got back on the train, came back and got him later that evening. And that's just what you do. And you just...
Yeah, and I agree. And that's what I would do. But what I never, ever thought of was the tube. Like it literally, after that first call, I'd got a good reading of you. I realised what was there. I realised we could make a massive change, because all I had to essentially do is go, okay, you've done the practicalities, you've shown up, you've done the work, you've created everything that you need from a financial perspective. But actually, if you don't make the change and figure out what makes you happy, then your little one's going to grow up thinking that it's okay not to know yourself and not to be happy. And I like to think I've coached enough people. I've seen the penny drop and you go like, yeah. So at that point, I didn't think there was anything that could shock me. And then on the call where you said about the tube, and again, like it's a very much a northern thing. You guys don't get it because you've got your own little thing down there. But like, I'd never thought of that. Like, never in a million years did I think, well, if my kids were ill or my partner was ill, I'd have to get on a tube with other people. I'd be up for murder. Like I would. I'd get on a tube with other people. And you're going through everything that you're going through. They have no idea, and rightfully so. They don't need to. But I wouldn't be in a mindset to be able to mix with people. And it was at that point, like I said, it was then you had massive perspective. So when things are going not so great, it's drawing on, and you can only do that when you get to know people, when you have conversations, and you don't have conversations with people like this on an app. And that is why I'm big on the Zoom calls, as you well know. I'm big on the voice notes, because when people start talking, they just carry on. Like, we don't want to say, yeah, I'm having a bad day and I'll speak to you tomorrow. It's like, I'm having a bad day because of this and this happened and I've eaten this, and they tell you how they feel. And you can only coach people when you connect and you know where they're at. Yeah, there used to be an old saying in coaching, which was you have to recognise where you meet the client where they're at. And again, with the day and age of apps and stuff like that and data, we can all get driven up on, oh, she's done this many steps, she's done this, she's done that, she's in a great place. Well, have you spoke to her? It's like, oh, well, I don't need to. It's like, what do you mean you don't need to? How are you going to motivate someone if you don't know what they've been through? Like, if you don't, some people, it's carrot and stick. Some people, it's just stick. Some people, it's just carrot. You have to know who you're dealing with and how to motivate them. So once you get a handle on that and you understand what people have been through and how much perspective they can have, and you understand what the driver is behind that change, none of that's about fitness. Yes, fitness will get you there, but none of it's about fitness. You have to understand the person and behaviour first.
And I think why it's worked for me on the coaching, I say on the one-to-one, is the voice note in the morning thing. You know that I need to plan and feel in control to be doing all right. And I go out every morning, take the dog for a walk for an hour, and then voice note you on that, and you can tell the difference.
100%.
What mood I'm in.
I know, and I say this about Keely won't mind me saying. Keely used to be my own boss. I can tell by the way Keely wipes right, the studio, you come in here and then you turn around. I can be down the bottom end of the studio, I can't even see her, and I can tell by the way Keely wipes her feet what kind of mood she's in. And it's the same with you. I can tell straight away from the tone, from the tonality, I can tell straight away what kind of mood you're in, whether you're frustrated. But again, that only comes at when you get to know people. Yeah. And that is where coaching for me is, and obviously, like, it's like tongue-in-cheek half the time, but like I always say, there's a massive difference between someone with a big Instagram following, someone who likes to sell things online, someone that wants to we all make good money online with regards coaching now. Like, it was never there. When I got into coaching, you was a failed athlete, or you wanted to just be cool to the opposite sex, or you had an issue and you wanted to help other people fix their issue because you fixed yours. There wasn't the money that's in it now. Definitely not. And I've been in fitness long enough, and that's one of the things that I'm quite big on social media. And when people look at the one-to-one, it's like, if you just want someone who's data-driven, go get a data-driven coach. I'm not a data-driven coach. I'm impact. I like to figure out how people's minds work. How do you motivate someone? How do you give them perspective? And again, that was the biggest learning curve for me. And selfishly, and I say this about a lot of my clients, is I was learning all the time as well. So from the conversations we're having, like you say, with regard to your role, you're in local government, you're high up in local government, and we're having conversations all the time. And I'm developing myself like I do for a lot of clients, and people like yourself, it's mad. People like yourself, and you might not think so, but we're going out for Turkish food. You're coming here, I'm meeting your daughter. Like, I'm off a council estate. I didn't meet people like that, but it wasn't until I started meeting people like that they've all got a story. So I had this kind of, I won't say trauma, but I believe that unless you're going to take ownership of what's going on, you make an excuse. And I always allude to, I hated the middle class. Like, I hated them with a passion. And the reason for that Yeah, the reason for that is because it was essentially like it was my excuse, and then Paul Mort was the one who put it on to me and said, "Well, okay, why do you hate him?" It's like, "Well, this," and he was like, "What have they actually got that you haven't?" And it was education, and that's when I realised that's just my excuse, and that's when coaching became a big thing for me, because I was like, okay, he walks like me, he talks like me, he's done really well, he comes from the same background as me, and that's why coaching for me is always two ways. It's never one way. Like, I'm blessed to get paid to develop myself, and again, that's something you only get if you connect with clients.
And I think that's what we talked about, isn't it? Because it's whoever it is, I think you have to build trust to be able to do that. So I'm honest with you. There's not many people I would be as honest with, like, this is how I'm feeling, this is what I'm doing. But when you've developed the coaching relationship that's built on trust and respect and understanding of who you are, and you know, when I say this is what I've done, you'll know there's something underneath it.
Yeah.
And then we'll work out exactly why I've done what I've done. But it helps me work my thinking out as well, because, like I say, I live by myself with a fabulous 11-year-old, and I'm at work all the time, which means there's not a partner or anyone that I'm talking about, you know, this pissed me off, that pissed me off. So actually, sometimes just walking, going, do you know what? This really wound me up. I'm going to do this today, I'm going to do this today. It's a way of getting out what it is, but building the plan, because I'm big about a plan. So it's building the plan for what I'm going to do about whatever the thing is. And that's part of why the one-to-ones really worked, because instead of just going round and round and round and round in my head, I'm able to go, does that make sense? You know, why are you doing that? And I sometimes, you know, when I'm struggling a bit, I just voice note you and just say, right, accountability, I don't want to fucking do this, but I'm going to do it.
Yeah.
And then, because once I've said I'm going to do it, I put the phone down and I'm going to do it, because then I've got to account for the fact that I was going to and I chose not to.
And also, again, it's about addressing it when it needs addressing. So like you said, them biscuits, that mood, that tone, that's noticing there's something there. And 9 times out of 10, we don't address it there. We kind of just move on, and then we address it after the occasion. Yeah. And again, you have to get to know someone to know when to address things, when to bring things up. And you only get that from the connection. So what would be your message to someone that, again, was in the similar position to you? Because I always say the reason we give out or put out so many transformations and we do the podcast is because I want someone to watch them and go, do you know what? That one person resonates with me. So for you, it was Laura. For somebody else, it might be Gemma. For somebody else, it might be Carol. There will be one person. So if there was someone in your position right now, what would be the advice you would give them?
I would say, don't think that you're not worth spending some time trying to understand yourself and explore how to make yourself look and feel better. And it's not always just about how you look, it's about how you feel. And the two are often tied together, and people pretend that they're not. And I think, like I said to you, I was comfortable with who I was as a person because I was proud of holding my job down, doing anything for my kids. But I wasn't happy with who I was as a person, me as an individual, and how I'd look and felt about my body. And I didn't really know how to address that. And I think it's just, I would say to anyone, be open to giving it a try, but you have to be honest with yourself. And that's the bit. There's no quick fix, there's no program. And the thing for me that really works is it's about and I say to everyone at work or whatever, going, oh, you've done really well, like, you know, da, 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 da. And I say it's about changing your habits. It's recognising that I need to change my habits. Like, we had lots of conversation at the early doors about, no, I'm going to walk between meetings instead of driving. Yeah. And first I was like, I feel really guilty, because, like, this is going to take me an extra 10 minutes than jumping in my car, but I can do it, and I'm going to do it because that will be better for me. And I think being able to prioritise yourself, sometimes just signing up for something like this and giving yourself permission to think about you and your habits and what you need to do is something most people in my sort of circumstance, I think, don't do. But yeah, it's the best thing that I've done in terms of getting myself back into some sort of physical shape, mental shape, and making some hopeful progress on working out what me being a happy old lady is going to look like in a few years' time.
And I think going back to what you just said there with regards, the two, although people like to believe they're not, they are linked together. And again, you know me, I'm a massive advocate of coaching and podcasts. And Chris Williams once said this, it was on Piers Morgan, I believe. And they said, what comes first, physical or mental strength? And he said physical, because he said the physical is the action of doing and will lead to mental afterwards. And again, I kind of agree, because you just said then, like, the thing of, like, I am worthy, I can walk between meetings, which might sound crazy to people, but when you're so focused on your career and providing, but that was after 20 weeks of coaching. So again, you had to build that habit, you had to build that self-belief. And again, I don't want to be too cliche with regards to quotes, but the one that always sticks with me is Alex Amosi that said, you do not get confident by shouting affirmations in the mirror. You get confident by building an undeniable amount of evidence that you are who you say you are. And for you, it took 20 weeks for you to do that. And that's what it's about. It's about you keeping them promises to yourself, no matter how small, whether it be steps, whether it be nutrition, whether it be protein, whether it be checking in, filling out your form, whatever that is. If you start to do that, you'll build momentum. And that's what Chris Williamson alluded to with regards, if you start to go to the gym and you start to get physically stronger, mentally that will keep up, because then you will go, do you know what, I can change. And it is exactly what worked for me, going to the gym, building consistency, showing up for myself, keeping them promises, putting on some muscle, actually allowed me to go, do you know what, like, it made me the man who I am today, and take all them skills and put them into, I think the gym is real life and this is pretend, but take all them skills out of the gym and put them into real life, and you'll do okay. And that's why I'm big on, like you just said, about showing kids that, because that's what you're doing, whether it be through sport, but it doesn't have to be through sport. It can be through the gym, martial arts with your little one, martial arts with my little one. It doesn't have to be your traditional football, ballet, gymnastics. It can be running, it can be outdoors, it can be going on the beach, but showing them about being active, you are building all of that momentum, and you're showing them that you don't have to be a certain person. It's kind of for everyone. And that's something that obviously I'm big on with regards.
And it's important for me, for her, that she picks who and how she is. She can do martial arts, she can do running, she can walk along the beach and like shells and stones, she can like reading. But I want her to know that she's worth investing her time and attention in, and whatever she wants to try is fine by me. She can try what she wants. If she feels like she might enjoy it, let's go and explore that. And that's the bit where I don't want her to get, as you say, to a point in life, she goes, what makes me happy? Well, let's find out, let's explore. So that's why I say she does like a lot of different things, and I want her to think that it's okay to be whatever sort of kid she is, who enjoys whatever she enjoys, where soon enough she's going to be a teenager and it's not so cool to be different. I want her to be confidently herself, whatever that looks like, through her teenage years, and then hopefully into adulthood as well.
And they will only do that if you do it.
Yeah, exactly. You can't tell them to do it and then not do it yourself.
Kids do what they see, not what they're told.
Absolutely.
And that's absolutely massive. So thank you so much for coming on.
No worries.
Your transformation has been absolutely incredible, and you are one of the rare stories, and I mean this, where like it made me think. So going back to what you just said about letting them know what's available, I'd shown up that much for my kid and financially provided for my kids that I'd kind of probably gone past it. And this is something I'm working on right now, is the fact that I wanted them to not worry about money when making decisions in life. But actually what I'd done is got to a point where I was successful and was still pressing and chasing money. And that's what it looked like to them, but it wasn't why I was doing it. I was doing it for impact. So now, like Roman came out with us last night, it's about them realising I do work a lot, but I'd work a lot across the impact. I'm not doing it for the money. Because I once heard a conversation where Roman said to his sister, Daddy works a lot so we can go Legoland. And I was like, whoa, that's not the case. I work a lot because I love my job and I love the impact, and this is why I like doing it. They'll be coming in here and doing a little bit of podcast piece, and they'll be involved in it. They're on the wall. They always come to the events, and it's big that they do that, because they need to understand that if I'm not careful, I'm going to push into them how much money you earn, and working hard to earn more money, that money is actually the goal. And it never, yes, money for me, I thought was the goal, but it wasn't. And once I got there, I actually realised I've got probably more problems than I ever had, because I was like, if this hasn't solved it, what is it? And again, it's about, it gives you the time and energy and the space to go, actually, what do I need to work on? And that's what I want the kids to see, is it's not, yes, I worked hard to change their life initially, but that's done now. I don't work hard now because of that. I work hard now because I love the impact of what I do. And that's kind of the thing that I had to reflect on and push on to them, rather than going, Dad works really hard to earn more money. Because then all I'm telling them is, yeah, not only do you need more money to be better, but that's how you're worth. That gives you self-worth. And then they're going to grow up, instead of thinking, I want my opportunities, that I need to go out and earn money, because that's your self-worth. And it's definitely not. So it was the one thing that made me reflect and go, do you know what? You've probably gone too far and you need to explain this. I never changed my behaviour, because what I realised is I love it. As you well know, like I'm in here every day. Like I absolutely love coaching, but it was key that I expressed it to them and let them know I love coaching, I love impact, I love meeting people, and I get development from them people as well, rather than Dad just sits in his office working because he's obsessed with the money, because that's not the case.
And it's like I say, it's important. She knows what I like and what I don't like, and it's okay that I express I don't like doing that, I like doing that, because that's what gives her the confidence to go, it's okay to like different things. It's okay that Mum needs to go for a walk. to be able to tolerate this thing that I want to do.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? It's okay that they recognise that we're different and we like different things, but it's being able to explain that and help them understand
100%.
it. That's the important bit, because otherwise you think they get it, they don't get it. And I know, I'm sure that she would have thought, oh, you know, mum gets grumpy, this, that and the other about there's certain things. Like, no, I know that I need to go out and just get a bit of fresh air. It's like this morning we got up, we got out. I feel great. I've got some steps in. We're going to spend hours in a car this afternoon. We're both going to be fine with that because we've both gone out and stretched our legs first. Whereas previously I probably wouldn't have explained it to her. Oh, mum's a bit grumpy. Yeah, it's because I feel like I'm just sat still and stuck and not doing anything. It's important, like I say, that we talk a lot, me and her, now as she gets older, so that she knows she can say how she's feeling, say what she likes. You met her last night. She's got a lot to say for herself.
yeah, and dancing.
Yeah, oh yeah, dancing around.
Dancing.
Which again, as a kid, like, you'd think she's quite shy, but when she knows enough to know that she's comfortable, as long as she's like, mind your manners, do your best. But then, hey, if that's what you like to do, that's what you like to do. We're cool with that. And that's important to me, that she sees that and she grows up that way.
Yeah, definitely. Thank you so much for
coming
coming
on. No worries. Thank you for
been a
inviting
pleasure.
us.